If you're watching this video, odds are you are struggling with your driver, and I bet you're not a tour professional. Well, you've come to the right place, because today I'm talking about 3 common mistakes, 3 common errors that amateur golfers make when hitting their driver. And the best part is I'm going to give you ways to fix it and a drill at the end that's going to tie it all together. I'm PGA teaching professional Todd Kolb, Director of Instruction for ES Golf TV and the Sanford Power Golf Academy. And man, there is nothing more enjoyable than hitting a nice long drive down the middle of the fairway. This is one of the reasons we play the game of golf. And there are kind of a couple mistakes that you're probably making that are not allowing you to hit that type of shot. So we're going to dive right into that. Now, before I do that, be sure to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and also leave a comment. I respond to almost every single comment. I love hearing from you. I love the dialogue. And you know what? If you disagree, that's okay too. Leave those comments just as well. So let's dive into this. 3 common mistakes that the amateur golfers are making when hitting their driver. Now, let's talk about, first of all, the driver and really what we want to do with it. It is the one club, folks, that every time you hit it, the ball's on a tee. And ideally, we want to hit slightly up on the ball when we're hitting it. An iron is on the ground, right? An iron we want to hit down on the ball, all right? But with the driver, the ball's teed up a little bit and we want to hit it a little bit up on it. So how are we going to do that? Well, the first thing that we need to do is we need to get our stance width correct. Most amateur golfers, when they're sitting there, all right, their stance width is pretty narrow. It's much like they're hitting a 6-iron or a 7-iron. Now, the driver is the longest club in the bag. It's the club that we're swinging the fastest with the most speed. It's also generally the longest swing. So you got to have a stance width that is wider than your irons. Now, how wide should it be? I like it to be about shoulder width. I think shoulder width is a good one, good stance width, you know, to kind of a reference point, but that can vary a little bit. But I would say this, for every one person I tell to narrow their stance with their driver, I'm telling 9 or 10 to widen out. So make sure you've got a good wide stance. That's suggestion number 1. Now, the common mistake number 2 that I see is improper ball position. Where do they have the ball? Most amateur golfers, this might be you, they have the ball too far back in the stance. Now, when the ball is too far back in the stance, they start hitting down on the golf ball, which increases spin, decreases distance, and there's a lot of other issues that it can cause. So where should it be? Well, it should definitely be forward in the stance. Now, I like to tell my students that it should be basically off the inside of their lead arm, okay, or typically kind of where a logo would be on a lot of shirts, but off the inside of your lead arm. Or if you want a reference point, all right, if I drew a line straight back from the ball, it should be off about the inside of my lead heel. So that would be suggestion number 2, or the mistake that I see a lot of amateur golfers make, is they have the ball too far back. So I don't know what you think about that, but leave a comment. Where do you like the ball to be positioned in your stance, or where have you found it to be the most successful for you? So those are the first 2. We've talked a little bit about the stance width, shoulder width, or maybe a little bit wider. Number 2, we've talked about ball position. All right. Number 3, the third thing that we want to talk about is we already know we want to hit up on the ball, so the angle of the shoulders is the other mistake that I see. So what am I talking about? Well, when amateur golfers get sitting there with their driver, they tend to keep their shoulders real level, kind of like this. Now, that's fine when they're hitting an iron or a 9-iron or an 8-iron, because that's going to help them hit down on the ball a little bit. But when they're hitting a driver, we want to see those shoulders tilted a little bit. So the lead shoulder is a little bit higher, the trail shoulder is a little bit lower, and at the end, I want to give you a little tip on the shoulders and something to do with the aim that can help you actually draw the ball if that's what you want to do. So that would be common mistake number 3. Shoulders are too level. So let's tie all this together, and then let's finish it up with a little suggestion on aim that can help you draw it. So draw the ball, excuse me. So here's what you're going to do. When you're sitting there, to kind of eliminate these common mistakes, you're going to tee the ball up. Now, I wasn't going to plan on talking about this, but since we're talking about it, when you tee the ball up, you want to tee the ball up so about half of the ball is above the top of the club head. Now, that's just a general guideline. Some will tee a little bit lower, some will tee a little bit higher, but you want to notice how about half the ball is above the top of the club head there, all right? That would be common mistake number 4. I wasn't going to talk about that, but golfers tend to tee the ball too low. So that's a good reference. So back to our suggestions here. I got the ball teed up. I'm going to put my feet together, and notice how the ball is right in the center of my stance like this, or in the center of my feet. I'm going to take my lead foot, separate it a little bit this way, and then I'm going to move this foot all the way back so it moves past my trail shoulder. Now, a couple things have happened. Number 1, now I've got the ball in the right spot. Number 2 is I've got my stance width at least as wide as my shoulders, or maybe a little bit wider. And then the final piece of the puzzle is I'm going to tilt my shoulders a little bit this way. So when I'm set in here, let's review that. Feet together, little mini separation, all the way past my trail shoulder, tilt a little bit. Now I'm in a good setup position to eliminate those 3 common mistakes. Now I promised you here that I wanted to also give you a little tip on how to draw the ball. So if you slice your driver, here's what I want you to do. I didn't plan on talking about this, but if you're still watching, I want to give you a bonus tip for sticking around. So when you're set in there, right, okay, you're going to take your aim, take your feet, aim a little bit to the right of the target if you're a right-handed golfer. And remember how we talked about these shoulders tilting? Just close your shoulders a little bit. So you'll notice my lead shoulder works towards the ball. I work back this way a little bit. And now from this position here, I'm set up to hit up on the ball. And from that little slight aim and tilting those shoulders, you're going to be able to draw the golf ball. So 3 common mistakes that the amateur golfers make. Do these things here, and they're going to help you hit a nice high draw.